Would you buy this painting for $5,000? Well, it sold for $110 million in 2017. Blue chip art has long been used as an investment asset. But did you know its prices have actually outpaced the stock market over the last 26 years? And while it was once only available to the global elite, this $1.7 trillion asset class is now unlocked for everyday people. Introducing Masterworks, the first platform that lets you invest in multi-million-dollar blue chip artwork for just a fraction of the cost of an entire painting. Masterworks built a proprietary database to understand appreciation rate via artist market. And so far, they have a strong track record with 13 art sales totaling more than $45 million. Investors have received annualized net returns of 10%, 21%, and 35%, to name a few. Join over 50,000 investors and get exclusive access to their latest offerings by skipping the wait list at the link below.
I had never anticipated that this thing that I made for my father would turn out to have that kind of reach, and not only that kind of reach, but that kind of impact. I come from a long line of doctors. My grandfather was a famous doctor, both of my parents, my wife, aunts, uncles. I'm the disgrace that never went to medical school. I spent my career in the video games industry. Back in 2006, I accepted a technical Emmy on behalf of my team. Do you remember when I won the Emmy?
Yeah, I remember the one Emmy. It was in the middle of winter, and then I said this. I said, Sandy, it's very nice. Mom and I are very proud you won an Emmy, but you know, an Emmy is still not a Nobel Prize in medicine or a Nobel Prize in physics. I mean, it's an Emmy. It's okay.
My father is an anesthesiologist. He said, all right, Sam, you're too old to go to medical school. At least put all this gaming nonsense to good use. Make me a game to train my colleagues to do a fiber optic intubation. 2 years later in 2014, he calls me up and he goes, hey, Sam, how many people downloaded the app? I went and I looked, and we had 100,000 doctors, nurses, and airway specialists who've been playing on this little game I made for my father, which is tremendously fulfilling. That's the power of Google Play, right? Word of mouth, and a game can really take off. This was the motivation for starting Level X. 8 years later, we have 3 million players, including over 800,000 medical professionals. And of course, my dad is still advising us.
Medical education doesn't say you have to go into a simulator before we let you loose, you know, on the wards, but maybe it'll come to that. But certainly having something in your pocket that you could practice on helps.
We will need to call this meeting to order.
There's a tremendous opportunity for video game technology, the neuroscience behind game design, to have positive impact on society. And with Top Derm, it's just one example of how video game technology can be applied to address racial disparities in healthcare. I feel that if you give the right tools to someone and you fill them with wonder and curiosity, they will discover that they can create anything. This is what happened to me, and this is what I hope happens for my children.
I would like to introduce this beautiful, courageous woman, Dr. Keisha. First, I would like to give her the opportunity to introduce her relatives who have graciously given us the opportunity to have here. We have moved all the way from Seattle. Thank you. Thank you, family. But Dr. Scarlett, could you please introduce your family first?
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here. And thank you. We rode 15 days on airplanes to get here. And so I wanted to acknowledge my beautiful parents. And I like those glasses. Excuse me. Dr. Menard G. Sofer and Dr. Carolyn Sofer, my parents. My siblings are here. Menard Jr., my husband, my wonderful husband, Mr. Christopher Scarlett is here. My beautiful mother-in-law, Millicent Scarlett, close friend and colleague, Rufus Montgomery, one of my very best friends, Patricia Rangel, Fatima So with her beautiful baby husband, and baby Imani, my gorgeous daughter, Danielle Scarlett, Miss Alonzi, Alonzi. Mr. Ray Cobb has joined us as well. My really close colleague, friend, Dr. James Randall, and also Dr. Millicent Roche are here with me. Thank you.
This is indeed a historic occasion for the St. Louis Public School. The swearing-in ceremony is the most important of all functions of the Board of Education. On this occasion, we are swearing in the first African-American female as our superintendent of schools. Selected in a nationwide search, Dr. Scarlett stood out for her experience, accomplishments, and contributions to children over the course of her career. She stood out for the academic success she was able to achieve for students of Seattle, and we welcome her here to share her skills, talents, and passion in service to our children. I'm trying not to get emotional because something she said when we called her to tell her that she was offered the position was that we see her. And truly we did. And we're ready for you. And trust me, after the story I heard about you and that purse, you see I'm looking at you. We know you're ready. So Dr. Scarlett, repeat after me. I say your name. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will truly perform the duties of local school superintendent of St. Louis Public Schools to the best of my ability. I do further swear that I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money due to this state or any political subdivision or authority thereof, subdivision or authority thereof, that I am not the holder of any office of trust under the government of the United States, any other state, or any foreign state, which I am by the laws of the state of Missouri prohibited from holding, that I am otherwise qualified to hold said office according to the Constitution and laws of Missouri, and that I will support the Constitution of the United States and this state, that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. Welcome to St. Louis Public Schools. You know, we always have, order we have to give. So I'm like, hold on, we have directions. Okay, I give to you all Dr. Keisha Scarlett, and she has remarks.
So I don't follow rules maybe as well as I could, but I can't see myself not facing you all whom I'm accountable to. I want to thank you so much for taking your time out to be here this night for what I'm saying is a momentous occasion, even myself. When I first learned about St. Louis Public Schools and the possibilities of the vacancy here back in October 2022, I had no idea that I would be in this moment. I am a faith-driven person, and I know that God has a plan and purpose for all of our lives and for my life, and I can see it demonstrated here just in the beauty of you. I'm so excited to join you in St. Louis, to move my family here, to become part of this community, to be able to swell with pride the way that residents do here. I am so grateful for our elected officials who have come. Senator May, who is here. Thank you, Senator May. Of course, Mayor Jones, thank you. That was one of the first calls I got of welcome when it was announced that I received the position, and I thank you for that call and that text message you sent me. And so as we move forward in this work that we do, I just want to highlight the value proposition of a high quality public education. The reason why public education is so important because most of us have touched that. It is a place and space that we all come through. And the importance of a high quality public education for our children is our promise for the future of our children. We are inextricably connected. And when our students are not learning and they don't have the opportunities that they need, barrier-free access to opportunities, what I call a multiverse of opportunities, then we're losing out. We're losing out on their abilities to participate in this democracy. And that's really the return on investment that we should be focused on. So thank you so much for your support. We have times ahead of us and the highs will be high. We will celebrate them. There will be some lows and we'll acknowledge those, but always try to work and improve together. I am so grateful for our Board of Education and your commitment. You all, they are volunteers and they take time out, endless numbers of emails, reading through in order to be committed to high quality education for students. I appreciate your commitment. I appreciate the passion that you bring. There may not always be agreement around how boards lead and how districts lead, but I believe that St. Louis Public Schools has some of the most talented people in the country leading here, or I wouldn't have come here. And I had an interview today with Sylvester Brown from St. Louis American. And I told him that I've had the fortune of always inheriting different roles at the very best time. And I know that for this. The stability afforded from Superintendent Adams over his 14-year tenure is what I get a chance to inherit. You all, I don't inherit, I don't take on F situations. And so St. Louis is not an F situation. We will move toward an A. We will be an A+ school district. We will be the most sought after district in the state. I know that for sure. Our babies cannot wait for us to get it together and all of the politics that surround this. Our children are not up for auction, right? They are not commodities to be utilized within education. So as we pursue equity and justice through education, it is our best pathway forward to social justice as a world. And that's why I'm committed to this work. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here. You all pray for us. If you're going to talk about us, I want you to stop and pray also, okay? So, and we want to hear your feedback. We are committed to continuously improving. You can't always grow and look good at the same time. And so we are growing and we will look good a lot of the times though, you all. So make sure you tell us when we're looking good, okay? And then if we're not looking so good, be gentle, all right? Because people are really committed to this work and people don't do this for the money and for the fanfare. They do it because we love our children. So I also want to say I'm inspired by a friend of mine that helped me to sort of articulate these words, that an education in St. Louis Public Schools will get you anywhere. And that is what we should be focused on, that when you come to St. Louis Public Schools, you can go anywhere in life. So thank you so much for welcoming me, and thank you.
Already, she's still in North Thunder. Senator Carla May, can you please stand? Gotta recognize her. I really gotta recognize her because she's wearing red. She's trying to get on my good side with that red on. Mayor Tashara Jones, no, she got on red. Can you please stand? Lakeisha Robinson, senior advisor, I'm sorry, Lakeisha Robinson, yeah, my children, family. You got me. And I know we have a representative for Corey Bush here. There you go. This is just the representation, and I do have to recognize some others. President of the Clergy Coalition, Reverend Charles Norris, can you please stand? Mr. Byron Clemens, union representation. The reason why I show all that are out in the audience and all of my parents and educators, I know I have parents here and I know we have educators here, but this is who and what it takes for us to do what we do. You know, Dr. Scarlett said it very well. You know, compliment us when you can. Don't come at us all the time. Sometimes we may get it right, sometimes we may get it wrong. But at the end of the day, we really are here for the kids. And we don't get paid for it. We truly want what's best for this district and for this city. And it really does take all of us to get it done. So I want to extend my hand to all of you guys and ask for your help in trying to make the change for this city, because it's going to take all of us. And the best thing I think we have going for us, one, is we're in this beautiful school. And two, that we're about to have an outstanding performance by an outstanding group of kids that are an outstanding product of St. Louis Public Schools. So with that, I want to present to you the performance of our students of Carlane Visual and Performing Arts. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I rushing it? Did I rush it? It's okay. Y'all know I like to go after. Can I get a picture? Y'all want a picture first? Thank you, everyone. Now it's time to get down to business. This concludes our ceremony, and we will go into business, the business of board work. I need a motion for closing this ceremony to go into open session. Ms. Henry. I'm sorry, a motion. Ms. Henry. Yes. I need a motion to call this meeting to order.
So moved.
Ms. Henry.
Mr. Hikes,
Present.
Ms. Weiss,
Here.
Ms. Hubbard. Present. Ms. Fowle, Ms. Jones,
Here.
Mr. Davis.
Here.
Ms. Cousins.
Yes.
We have a quorum.
Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance
We had the great opportunity for our student recognition to be the great students of Coeur d'Alene Visual and Performing Arts. Let's give them a round of applause one more time. Superintendent report, Dr. Scarlett. I'll kind of help you out, Dr. Scarlett. Staffing an update. Should be a presentation. Who's doing the presentation? Mr. Watson. Thank you. Transportation update.
Good evening to the board. Welcome, Dr. Scarlett, all of our guests. Square Watson, Deputy Superintendent of Operation. And tonight we want to provide an update for our transportation. Well, I first want to commend and acknowledge the Facilities Department for getting this building ready for this meeting, led by Mr. Gray, the facilities team, the custodial and maintenance. So as we get into this presentation and we look forward to the transportation services for the 23-24 school year, please know that your students, our scholars' safety, comfort, and convenience are always top priorities. Earlier, we launched a survey to acquire information needed to efficiently generate route assignments for all of our scholars. If you did complete the survey, we thank you. We thank you for your partnership, and we ask for your patience as we reissue an updated version. The survey has been revised to capture and provide additional information for families of each of our estimated 15,000 bus riders. We are looking forward with starting this school year with a full team of bus drivers. We all have every reason to expect a greater level of transportation stability as we begin the school year. So our partners with Missouri Central Bus Company will continue hiring, and SLPS will again arrange alternative transportation as we did last year to ensure that all of our students have consistent transportation. So tonight's presentation, led by Missouri Central, will just give us an update of where we are and where we plan on going and what the expectations are for this 23-24 school year. So with no further ado, I'll pass it over to Missouri Central, Mr. Scott Allen and Mr. Jeff Sherman.
Good evening. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Scarlett. First off, welcome, congratulations. And I've got to say, this is for transportation to follow an opening like that. You always get a little bit nervous when you follow something like that. But I've got to say, I'm glad we are, because I could not be more inspired. I really was at the opening and what I've heard so far. So I'm appreciative to be a part of this. We're looking forward to the coming year. It certainly has been a challenge this past year, and we're working hard to hire drivers. If you know anyone that's looking for a job, we'd love to have them come on board and join us in driving a bus for St. Louis Public Schools. So following that opening, I'm going to be quick because I understand there's probably more excitement coming, but we'll go through this as quickly as we can. I want to first just kind of give us a snapshot of where we came from, some of the challenges this past year. As parents, for parents in the audience, probably felt some of that as we were dealing with driver shortages and things like that. Our call volume was pretty large. You'll see this in the following slide. About 85,000 phone calls came through our call center. We had some challenges with fleet sizing, driver shortage, technician shortage. Much like all of the labor force in the community, we were challenged as well with shortages. We weren't fortunate enough to receive a grant in the first round of electric busing opportunities and funding, but we're hoping in round two, the federal government will see their way through and give some funding for St. Louis Public Schools and electric buses. Here we go. To give you some perspective, we run 222 school routes. We ended the year with about 245 drivers. Some of those were on leave and not available, but that was our numbers for the year. We hired 325 drivers. I want to emphasize that in post-COVID, can you imagine? We hired 325 drivers, not counting the other staff and monitors, in a post-COVID environment. That was extremely challenging. Most companies can't hire 5 or 10. We were successful at 325. Fell short, still have a long way to go, but I can't help but at least brag on that a little bit of how successful that was in our recruiting. As Mr. Watson said, we transported about 15,000 students were registered. We transported out of those 15,000 on a regular basis on any given day about 9,800 students. Collision data, something for us to work on this year, but we certainly had a good summer school. We feel good about that. Our trends are trending in the right direction. So we're remaining hopeful for that in this coming year. Our challenge, as I mentioned earlier, is labor. In addition to the driver shortage, we also have driver attendance, making sure everybody comes to work every day, shows up, drives those buses, because it's critical. It's critical that our students see their driver every day, get to know them, get to understand them, be part of that relationship with them. Fleet inspections, we had a little bit tough fleet inspection. We're working on that. We've increased our fleet mechanics by 5. We've also, and you'll see in a later slide about some of the benefits that we've added to the fleet maintenance crew to attract more and better quality mechanics. Our on-time performance for summer school was much, much better than what we were challenged with in the fall. For summer school, our on-time performance was about 98% on any given day. And certainly that is where we want, and that is our focus for the fall. Our call center, I mentioned earlier, 85,000 phone calls came through our system from August of last year through the end of school this year. Summer school, we received 3,000 calls. Mondays were about 25% as typical. Monday mornings are usually the busiest when our phone banks are lit up. Summer school. Jeff, you want to talk a little bit? I guess I should have introduced myself, didn't I? I'm Scott Allen. I'm the Regional Operations Manager for Missouri Central. I'm sorry. I'll introduce Jeff Sherman, our District Manager.
Welcome, Dr. Scarlett, to St. Louis. Glad to have you here. Summer school. I think we did a great job with summer school, fully staffed. Summer school routes kicked off well. We did about 135 summer school routes. Actual riders assigned were about 6,900. We transported about 4,700 students for summer school. We were about 70 riders, actual riders there. Our call center, definitely little hectic the first couple days, but it definitely went down towards the end of the summer school. Our summer school attendance was a whole lot better than we did during the school year. We averaged about 4% of our driver call-in compared to about 8%, 9% for the school year. Look forward. So our estimated route count for this next school year is about 227. Our driver goal, which is 15% above our contract, is actually 10%. We want to achieve 15%. Right now, we're currently at about 22 drivers short. We're at 239 drivers versus 227 routes. Our application flow is still really good. We've got about 589 applications throughout the summer. We have currently in our classroom training to get their CLP, commercial license permit, we have 35, and we have 18 that are behind the wheel right now. One of our key dates that we have coming up is our route pick day on August 7th. This is kind of a determination on who's coming back this next school year. Communication improvement. We continue to have weekly. They were actually Zoom calls during the summer for communication between us and the transportation. We retained our vector communications to help us out during the summertime. A lot of communication that's happening. We have our app, bus app, our Here Comes the Bus. The parents can follow the bus on. Currently, we have about 2,700 accounts. We're adding
and if I can throw a plug to that, sorry about that. That is really important. The parent app allows the parent to register and follow their bus, so they can see if the bus is running behind or something. So for parents out here, if you've not registered, I throw that plug out there.
So we are introducing a text messaging option, which is also email to the parents. And that'll go to every students' parents that is assigned to the route. So if our bus is running, let's just say 15 minutes late, we're able to send an instant text message to the parents to let them know. And that'll be coming up this next school year, which will add a huge benefit for everybody. We got our phone lines that we have for each location. Couple of challenges we had this past school year was staffing. We are increasing our staffing at both of our lots. We're adding a third dispatcher to both of our lots. We are also adding a charter clerk to our operation. And we've increased our maintenance staff by 5 techs already. We do have a call center that'll be up and running. We have learned a lot from our challenges we had in the past. So we are improving those call center. We'll have 8 are at our staff at the call center and 2 staff at each location to help us out also. We'll also have one of our staff members overseeing the operation. We've hired experienced regional maintenance manager, Mike Nolte. We brought him here. He has 40 years of experience in the maintenance side of school busing. We have hired a new district maintenance manager. We just brought on Levi. He's our new North manager. He started Monday, and we're still looking for our spring manager. Lots of recruiting efforts going on. We are dramatically increased the tech wage. We're now hiring up to $34. We have incentives to get your Missouri license inspection and our ASC certification. Why choose us? We're paying a rate now this next school year of $26 an hour. Currently, our average per day is about 7.2 hours our drivers are getting. Paid holidays, unemployment benefits, weekends free. We also offer a child ride-along program and weekly pay. Some of our recruiting efforts, we had a big, huge push at our recruiting training center on June 23rd. Lots of media attention, lots of people showed up to come to our event. It was great. Just some of our recruiting efforts that we have going on throughout the school year and the summertime.
Okay. So some of the things that are working tasks that we're working with the district on is our on-time performance. We want to build the platform for improving that. So we're working with building the parameters for that. We've been talking about bell times. I know there's some bell time adjustments in play. And then also there's some discussions, I think Mr. Watson spoke of, about a survey that went out and looking at the opportunity for parents to opt in or opt out. If you remember earlier in one of the earlier slides, there was 15,000 students registered, but only about 65% of those actually ride the bus. So if we could shrink that gap between all eligible riders and those that really want to ride, then that improves service. But then also we can determine what our total bus counts really need to be if we know that only 7,000, let's say, or 8,000 students are truly riding. We're not routing buses to accommodate 15,000 students. They can certainly come and go. You know, if a child or a parent says, you know, I don't need transportation today, 2 months later, something happens, their automobile, they can't get to school, they can opt right back in and hop on the bus. So those discussions are going on internally with the school district now, with district personnel. Jeff spoke briefly of a texting app that we're looking at and researching and negotiating with an app called Bus Bulletin, where we can text out messages at a moment's notice. Electric vehicles. We have hired or partnered with a national firm that has worked with and works with several districts around the country called Highland. We're working with them to help us secure grants for electric school buses. There's been a conversation already, or a couple of conversations within the district staff and Highland and us about applying for grants for electric school buses. So we remain hopeful that that opportunity is there and we'll reap some benefits. So our fingers are crossed to that. And I hope we went fast enough and slow enough. So again, thank you. we appreciate the opportunity. And again, truly inspiring evening for me to be able to do this and witness what I witnessed this evening. So.
Any questions from the board?
This right here.
Ms. Jones?
Yes, my first question is, what is the average age of your buses currently?
That's a great question. You think I'd have it on the tip of my tongue. I want to say 5 or 5, less than 5, between 4 and 5. And I will get that. I will confirm that for you. I'm sorry, I didn't have that information.
So my next question is, you
Yes.
know, for years I've been asking about electric buses.
Yes,
So if you hired a company, was this Highlander?
called Highland.
A
Yes, ma'am.
Highland. So when you place your application to the federal government, is that what it would be?
It will be. It will be an application to the federal government. I think on behalf of St. Louis Public Schools, and yes, I'm not the expert in terms of how that goes, but yes, I believe that's how it happens.
So my question last year was, once you place this application,
Mhm.
is it my understanding that if your contract is, once it's up, will the district own the buses or will you own the buses?
That'll have to be worked out because the buses have to stay within the district. So yeah, that ownership would transfer if it is that we own them. The way the grant works, or at least that first round of funding. I'm not sure how the second round of funding, but I think it's very similar. That first round of funding, the buses had to stay within the district that they were granted to. And I believe the second round of funding will have the same event.
Okay, my next question is about safety and security. I'd like to know, do your buses have seat belts? And do any of your buses have bulletproof glass?
I'm sorry, the second part of that?
Do you have seat belts? And do you have bulletproof glass in any of your buses?
Not all buses have seat belts. The special needs buses do, but that is not the fleet in itself as a whole is not. Buses do not have bulletproof glass. They do have tempered glass as required by the state of Missouri. I'm not sure bulletproof glass would even pass the state Missouri inspection, but they are tempered glass as outlined in the state of Missouri.
So when you mention child ride along, what does that
Yes.
mean? I don't understand.
So again, we try to think out of the box for the opportunity to recruit and retain drivers. And one of the things that has been a popular benefit, if you will, is for young parents that may have children that are just below school age, but do not have babysitting opportunities. They can bring their child to and ride the bus with them. Or if they are young and are not able to stand at the bus stop by themselves, they can bring them into the bus lot and ride the bus with the parent. So it's a great opportunity, great draw for young parents looking for work but are struggling with daycare.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Hubbard?
So the app, that only works for smartphones?
I'm sorry?
The app would only
No,
work?
the Here Comes the Bus app, the parent app that's in play today can work from a laptop, cell phone, smartphone, any access to the web.
Okay, so a parent would have to have access to the internet for it.
Yeah, through their, yeah. Well, I guess with a cell phone, I'm not really sure how the cell phone, yeah,
Some
all
sort
that
of
works,
connection.
but certainly with your cell phone, it works, but with the internet, if you have a laptop or desktop, you've got to have internet access. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Weiss?
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I'm curious about your evaluation after the first few weeks of the school year. Could you explain how you all plan to evaluate how things are going those first few weeks?
Sure. Well, for the first thing is this is my 39th year. So I've kind of witnessed a number of startups. I mean, one thing, and certainly want to be transparent, there's probably going to be some hiccups those opening weeks of school. There always are, whether it's this district or any district in the country. You have those opening hiccups because you have late enrollees, you have new drivers, You have those challenges with new routes. And so there are those kinds of hiccups that we plan for, but you can't necessarily stop, right? So we expect that. So how we're going to evaluate that really depends a lot on our volume of calls and how well we can how well we can bounce back from that, right? So typically, the challenges are those first couple of weeks of school because kids are still enrolling. They're trying to figure out their bus stop, their times. And so there's that chaos that you kind of have, that controlled chaos that will happen just naturally, if you will. But it'll be our ability to react to those where we can. So we'll evaluate every afternoon. So what we'll do, we'll have a team every afternoon. Usually it'll involve the folks from the district, and every afternoon we'll evaluate what worked, what didn't work, and what needs to be adjusted. But most of the time, it's centered around either A, the driver shortage and what that causes, or B, the enrollments, especially late enrollments and challenges that brings, because routes have been done, will be done by the 1st of August. And so everything that's happening after that gets to, can be problematic. Does that help?
Just for clarification, you're saying for the 23-24 school year, you have a total of 261 drivers, correct?
No, that is our mark, our goal, based on what we believe we're going to have of roughly 227 routes, plus a 15% spare bench, which would then take us to I don't have it in front of me again, 261. Thank you.
So currently
261. We currently have 239 on our rosters today. And then we have approximately 35 in training in the CLP phase, and then another 18 in behind the wheel, plus whatever we add each day. Applicants come in and we add to our class.
So for the start of school, what's the total number of drivers you would need?
So our goal for the start of school is 261.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we have Dr. Berry come up to do the school-based staffing, I need approval of
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from Tuesday, April 11th, 2023 meeting, the Tuesday, April 25th, 2023 work session, and the Tuesday, May 9th, 2023 meeting.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ms. Henry? The ayes have it.
That's it.
Good evening, Madam President, Vice President, board members, our superintendent, and the entire St. Louis Public School community. I bring you the staffing update for human resources this evening. So in order to provide context, we have to go through a little bit of historical relevance. So I'm going to ask that you travel down this journey with me. Promise to be brief. So looking at the numbers, in 2020 and 2021, we hired 188 teachers. So if you look at the number of teachers that resigned, there was 163. Now, this was the only year in the last 4 years where we had more teachers we hired than those that actually resigned. We'll talk a little bit about that later. During the same year, think about some of the things that were happening, right? In the middle of COVID, we had remote work, we had synchronous, asynchronous learning, and a host of different strategies that teachers were able to do without being in the actual building. So we only had about 245 separations this year. So fast forward, moving into 21-22 school year. Think about it. We all returned back here at SLPS. We were back in October. Students were fully engaged in the classrooms. We were no longer virtual, right? We had a vaccine mandate, and there were a host of things that were now different this year than the previous year. So we hired 140 teachers. However, by the end of the year, we had 303 that had resigned. In addition to, our terminations had went up and our total separations were higher. So this made us say, well, we really need to capture this data and figure out what's going on. So we started looking at our separation data and our exit surveys. Back then, and just like it is now, the top 3 reasons why we had teachers and staff leaving was due to working conditions and discipline, retirement, and personal and family reasons. So now we're going to move and fast forward to the 22-23 school year, where we hired 148 teachers. This year was kind of stagnant, just like it was in the previous year. And then we had 182 teachers that resigned and 240 separations. However, right now we are currently sitting at 111 teachers that we have hired, but there are many more that we are still going through that our staffing team is doing the onboarding for. And we also have many offer letters that are being present. So now we're going to get a more granular look, looking at the school-based vacancies. So our teaching vacancies in 2019, we had 51 vacancies. We had 117 total vacancies. Again, that year was the least number of vacancies in the past 4 years. Moving to 2020, back again, things are different. The times were different. We know what was happening then. We had 105 vacancies at the beginning of September. By the end of the year, we had by the end of September, we had 174 vacancies. Now we're moving forward. October of 21, it's increasing again. As you know, we just mentioned, we didn't hire as many teachers. So now, of course, we have a higher number of teacher vacancies. In addition to going back to that exit data, 242 vacancies because we had more teachers that had resigned the previous year. Fast forwarding to last August, we had 141 teacher vacancies. Now it looks like we are trending upward in the wrong direction. However, with the 169 non-teaching staff, this gave us the opportunity to do some creative work. And we were able to hire more than ever our aides, substitutes, and we were able to train, and we have much more to do, and we understand that. But we're bringing this data up to explain that I believe Vice President Davis told us in the last meeting that we have a retention issue. And that's not to negate the fact that we have to do a lot more with retaining and going out and finding quality candidates. Well, as a district, we have to figure out how can we keep our teachers and help our teachers and staff want to stay with us. So right now we are sitting at 204 teaching vacancies. But again, this is the highest because we are doing this earlier in the year. So if we present this information a month from now, this number would look different. And just to give you some brief data about statistics from DESE. So the educator prep programs, as you know, we talked about in 2017, how they only had about 8,000 people enrolled in programs. In St. Louis, I'm sorry, not in St. Louis, in Missouri, the state of Missouri. So moving forward in the 18-19 school year, that number dropped by 2,000 that were enrolled in educator prep programs. And then dramatically in 2021, that number skyrocketed to 11,000. So this is just enrollment. So you're thinking we should have more people coming to the field of education. However, between 2017 and 2021, we only had about 3,500 on average that were actually completing educator prep programs. And we're still looking at these hard to fill areas. And before it was always the science and math, which we still need to fill. However, elementary education has reached #1 as the hardest to fill area, with our mild and mild cross-categorical coming in second and the early childhood coming in third. So you're asking, what are we doing about it? What are you gonna do about it? So a few highlights from this year. We attended 40 plus hiring fairs. Now you're thinking probably just 40. That's double the number that we've done in the previous year. We had over 850 meaningful contacts. We interviewed over 570 substitutes, aides, and assistants, and we hired from that 570, 236 new support staff. We also at a 3% raise to our salary schedule. We created a credentialing process that will allow us to financially support those that are only a few credits away from being certified. In addition to, we covered the full cost for 276 substitutes, and we hired 148 teachers, and we have paid student interns. And of course, they're going to give us a 2-year commitment, but when they start in their first year as teacher of record, they're coming in at step B. Right now, we are working with our media campaign. Shout outs to our Office of Institutional Advancement. I'm sure you probably have seen the radio, the billboards, the television, the social media, Teach for Tomorrow. We are also doing an email push where we're doing a listserv. So those that have visited the website, we're constantly trying to be engaged with them so they can say, yes, I want to work for SLPS. We're working with our priority schools. We're meeting with leaders, our network superintendents, and also a shout out to our building leaders. They are working diligently to ensure that we have our schools filled by the start of the school year. We're leveraging our handshake premium to reach out to local universities to have contact with those students who are in their schools right now or who have graduated. We are walking applicants through the process because many of our applicants said, I don't know, I'm being passed off to too many people. So we're holding their hand from start to finish to ensure we have them join us. We are taking applicants to campus visits. We are also reaching out to local colleges and universities asking, hey, we know you're not having a career fair right now, but can we please come and just talk to the students on your campus? We are offering relocation assistance for all candidates that are moving within 50 miles. We're constantly revisiting, talking about what we're doing, what do we need to change, what can we do differently? The foundation, Parsons Blewett, they're supporting our efforts. We're doing work study sessions and human resources on Wednesday. We have many teachers and support staff that have come down and taken advantage of it. We are purchasing those practice tests. We are sitting with them. We're talking about why this answer makes sense and what should you do in the test, as well as word of mouth. And that has been our biggest. So we are asking you to spread the word and please tell all that you know to visit www.slps.org/teach because we love SLPS and we know you will too. Thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Berry?
I just want to make more of a comment. Well, first of all, Dr. Berry, thank you. It's so hard, but it's so critical. And in this day and age, you know, spending the time that we did up in Jefferson City, the just vicious, unnecessary attacks on the teaching profession in our society from our government at the highest levels is just absolutely uncalled for. And I just want to send a message to our staff that I believe very firmly that this Board of Education supports our teachers, supports the independence of our teachers. And we did it in one way financially with the pay raises last year, but just in terms of support you in the difficult work that you do, we are going to do everything in our power to keep all of that nonsense out of your classroom so you can do what you are highly trained to do and what is so necessary for the success of our students. So thank you, Dr. Berry. Keep on, and we're going to be supporting you as much as we possibly can.
Any other questions or discussions for Dr. Berry? Thank you, Dr. Berry. Moving on to the consent agenda. We're going to pull 07, 11, 23, 21. At this time, I'll ask the board members from last board meeting if there was any other items that needed to be pulled. No one had any items that needed to be pulled. The only items at this time that will be pulled is 07, 11, 23, 21. And the item for discussion will be 07, 11, 23, 27. At this time, I need a motion for approval of all other consent agenda items that are listed before us. Can I get a motion for approval?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Can I get a second?
A second.
Any discussions? All those in favor, can I get a yay?
Yay.
Yay.
Any opposed? It's been moved second, no discussion, and all approved with yay. Thank you, Ms. Henry. Item 07, 11, 23, 27. I need a motion for approval. I need a motion.
I'll move to approve item 7, 11, 23, 27.
Second.
I did want to have some discussion on this. This item is to adopt and approve the final citywide plan for education in the city of St. Louis. Before we talk, there is a video that sort of shows some of the scenes from the process and gives a history of how we got to this point. So Ms. Van Oy.
How do you rebuild an education system that has remained unchanged for nearly 2 centuries? It requires equal parts motivation, vision, and planning, all things that have been developed over the last 18 months as the blueprint for a citywide plan for education has been developed.
We knew that we were operating in a very fractured system of education in the city of St. Louis. We've never intentionally said, this is what we want our school system to be. We started the process knowing what the problem was, that people weren't talking to each other.
St. Louis, once one of the 10 largest cities in the United States, is now ranked around 65th. St. Louis's population has dropped from over 700,000 to fewer than 300,000 in a relatively short period of time.
From that, we had the opportunity to kind of take it to the next level to say it's not just about St. Louis Public School, but it's about the city as a whole and education as a whole.
In addition, the needs of students are different. The citywide plan is necessary because there is a disconnect in the infrastructure that will continue to impede success unless it's addressed.
Housing is a factor. Safety is absolutely a factor. You know, the infrastructure of what we're dealing with, the health and safety, all of these things are key components. Your community is key components to what's going to lead to how our kids are learning.
Most agree this process was born out of the moratorium on opening new schools the Board of Education passed in 2021. It happened on the heels of painful school closures that took place just before. Well, education deserts were left in the city because SLPS schools and charter schools closed simultaneously, with none of the entities communicating with one another about their plans. This remains one of the overarching problems in education here in St. Louis.
The goal of the moratorium was to put a pause on opening and closing schools. That's where the citywide plan came from.
Whereas the city of St. Louis needs a citywide plan for education to ensure the public school system provides a quality education for all kids all the time.
This movement was announced in February of 2022. The initial goal was to identify and recruit the stakeholders with the vision to deliver a 21st century education for the 45,000 school-aged children still living in the city of St. Louis. About 60 parents, educators, students, clergy, business, and civic leaders would form what is called an ad hoc committee to start the process. Over the next months, there would be meetings of these volunteer committee members who formed into groups looking at 5 vital areas: school experience, health, wellness, and safety, education, workforce, infrastructure, and community.
That meant we had people who were on the ground. That means that we had parents, we had grandparents, we had aunts and uncles, we had community volunteers, we had school security officers, we had food service workers.
Yes or no?
Yes. By the time the citywide plan committee held its first public meeting in September of 2023, those topically assigned groups were in place. The members, referred to as champions, had ideas that were starting to come into focus.
We want to be sure that every child is guaranteed certain things when they walk into a St. Louis City school. They're guaranteed, if you're in a high school, access to advanced placement or AP courses. They're guaranteed arts programs and music programs, right?
So our committee is all about ensuring that if you're a child in this city, you get the things you need to learn. If you're a teacher in this city, you have the resources you need to teach.
I have children who have grown up and gone through both systems, the charter and SLPS. So for me, it's about all students and all families in the city of St. Louis. We are the community workforce.
We've been told several times
not bringing everybody to the table, but we are. And it's a process that you must understand, because it's not about us as individuals. It's about the kids.
In May of 2023, the final public meeting was held. The report was nearly ready, and those champions, the people who had rolled up their sleeves months earlier, laid out some of the highlights as they saw them.
Part of our recommendations was really looking at what are those other barriers to recruitment and to retention.
There should be a social contract and commitment, not just from the school districts, but from the families and the community partners.
Public education systems in the city of St. Louis must critically and thoroughly define equitable access to excellent education for all students before implementation of the blueprint.
This is a blueprint, not a total plan. It is a living document, one that will shift and adapt as these ideas are converted into policies, practices, realities.
And I also know that that's how the Board of Education and everybody else who has played a part in this is going to continue to see this become implemented in the next few years when the hard work really begins. I do want to thank the Office of OIA who put that together, the mellifluous voice of our own George Sells, Ms. Willis, Mr. Lofton. So thank you for putting that together. All the board members all received the working draft copy as well as the final copy last week. You have hard copies in front of you. I wanted to talk a little bit about, just to add to the points in the video, when this process started, this call for a citywide plan started, only 2 of the current 7 of us were on the Board of Education. This was something that the rest of us sort of inherited and began to run with. It was an important call. It was an interesting call. And the way we approached it is something that I think has never really been done before. You know, it's been reduced to a document, but hopefully there's a lot of people in this room that were able to participate in the process. And certainly I think most of the board members, even the ones that just came on in the last couple of months, at least got to see part of the process as it was going on. And what that process delivered was at least a consensus document. It's a consensus around things which people in the city have never agreed upon. It may seem simplistic in some ways, but the truth is we're not doing a lot of the things that are called for in this document. We just haven't done it for either political reasons, for just inefficiency reasons, for monetary reasons, whatever they were, but it's not working. That's was the call of the Board of Education when they closed and consolidated schools prior to most of us coming onto the board. And I think that is something that we are continuing to face. Those are discussions that we had with Dr. Scarlett during the search and hiring process, to be very honest about the challenges that the city has. So the work now really still continues and begins, but we're going to carry through on the momentum which this document provides. And I do know that within 6 months, within 12 months, within 2 years, within 5 years, there's going to be, as Dr. Pollack said, breadcrumbs from serious changes in the way that we do business and education in this city that lead back to this blueprint. And it started off with this process of building consensus with a group of people who were working in silos. And those silos have been broken down, and we really have a basis to begin a lot of work. So I'm happy to take any questions from the board.
I have at least one question. Was Ms. Donna going first? I can't see her.
Ms. Jones?
Yeah.
Well, I purposely didn't participate in many of the meetings because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't biased about anything, and I wanted to hear what the public was saying, and I wanted to get an understanding. I didn't want to influence anyone or what was going on, because I was there initially when we started to close schools, and I was one of 3 votes that said no to closing schools because I've always had a problem with when we close schools, they turn into a disaster in the neighborhood and bring the neighborhoods down. And so what of that? But the process was very interesting, and I was so happy to see many people come in and work. They worked so hard. But and I remember over the 17 years that I've been on the board that there were so many soldiers in this fight for education. So just the few people that were there, and I'm saying few hundred that participated in developing this document, there were a lot of people over the years that I saw that really fought hard and really cared and loved SLPS and all the children in the city of St. Louis. But I have to say, I'm really asking our board if we can, as a board, schedule a work session where we are just talking as a board about the real definition, because there were some wording in here, and this is not a real skinny book here, and a lot of thoughts are in here. And I want to be clear when I'm voting on something, and I want to understand how people really felt. So I'm asking if we can reserve a time where just the board members are talking about this finding. So, because I know how important it is. And with our children in such desperate need right now, an emergency crisis, and I know I live in one of the worst neighborhoods of many in the city of St. Louis, where our young people are dying every day and shooting and killing each other. So I don't think I understood where the students' voices were. I heard people say it on the Zoom call and that I was on, but I know that there were students, I saw the pictures, but I want to get a better understanding. If President could schedule something where we could all come together as a board and understand, make sure we're understanding where we're going, because this is a blueprint. But I respect and hold everyone as high self-esteem that did this, because this is so important. We needed this. And thank you so much, everyone, for all the hard work that you've done.
Secretary Jones, we absolutely will. That's part of what Vice President Davis is saying. This is a blueprint and this is a live document, and there's so much more that's going to be coming out of this. And from the board's perspective, we are going to have to take a deeper dive from the board perspective and the work that we're going to have to be doing from our lens as to what we're going to have to be doing, especially with our schools and the roles that we're going to have to be playing moving forward from this blueprint. So absolutely what you're asking for will definitely occur. Thank you for that. Ms. Hubbard.
Could we table this and vote on it at the next session? Like Ms. Donna, I read through it to the best of my ability. I still have so many questions. There are things that I don't understand yet, concerns that I have, and I would much rather understand things before I vote for them than try to understand them afterwards. Do I have to make an amendment? Is that what would be?
Well, let me just give a bit of explanation, and I don't know if this changes anything or not. So the way this is structured, we created an ad hoc committee of the board. So per Missouri statute, the Board of Education of the City of St. Louis is empowered to form committees that will inform the work of the board. We have bylaws that establish 2 types of committees: permanent standing committees, which need to have a specific outline to them, as well as ad hoc committees. Ad hoc committees have a specific outline to them, but they also have a specific ending event. In this case, when this committee was formed, this ad hoc committee was formed, the specific ending event was the delivery of a document. So in my mind, what we would be voting on is the acceptance of the document to terminate the ad hoc committee. Also in my mind, and I think this goes very much to something that needs a lot of in-depth further discussion, is we're going to probably need to create another committee which will be responsible for the implementation. And as you read through the document, there are very specific calls for continuing work of the stakeholders and the champions with deadlines to do that. So I think that just procedurally, that was sort of how I envisioned it. I don't know if that helps you or makes any sense, but at some point we do have to terminate that committee.
So what was your motion, I guess? Was it to accept the recommendations or to accept the committee's work and thank them for?
It's to accept the document as completion. And so that would be indicating completion of the ad hoc committee's charge under our previous motion creating the ad hoc committee.
Okay.
What would be the, I'm sorry, what would be the new committee that would be formed after closing out the ad hoc committee?
Well, I think that's what we need further discussion on.
Okay, and I agree with Emily and Donna. I think we need more time to talk about this. I appreciate all the hard work that's gone into this blueprint, but I have concerns and I have questions. I think our children deserve better, and I think we need to spend more time going through this blueprint and discussing it. So I would be on board with discussing this further as a board.
So is your concern, so I just want to make sure I understand where you guys stand regarding what Vice President Davis is saying, based on where we stand with the ad hoc committee. What he's asking is the motion to approve the blueprint per the ad hoc committee. You guys have concerns in regards to the blueprint. So you're approving what the ad hoc is pulling out, but you want to have further discussion regarding the details of the blueprint.
I think I would say.
Because we have to close out the committee to start the phase 2 of it, is what
Okay.
we're saying.
I definitely want the committee to be done and if everyone to get a rest. I'm so thankful for all the work that everyone on the committee and the champions and the stakeholders have done. I know it was many, many hours. And, you know, maybe I'm not good at Robert's rules. But if we're accepting the work that says, hey, the ad hoc committee did their job and now we're going to talk about it, that's okay. I would vote for that. But in the meeting of the ad hoc committee, the language was very much about adopting the blueprint, and I'm not prepared to do that. So if Matt's motion is just about accepting it and letting the ad hoc committee be done, I can vote yes to that. But I just want to be clear. I'm sorry.
Question.
Go ahead, Mr. Heights.
I guess they're asking if we agree to this, it's not putting this in the motion. If I'm explaining that right. If we say yes to this right now, that doesn't mean we are putting all of this into motion.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think that your vote means that you agree with every word in the document. I don't think that it means that everything in the document obligates us to do something. I think, as I said, this is the termination per our bylaws that we called for a committee to be formed, and we are accepting the fact that that committee was formed. It did produce a document and it provided a report to the Board of Education. We are accepting the document that they gave us as completion of their work. I mean, everything else we've really got to work on. So I mean, you're not being obligated to say that you think everybody did a great job and this was everything that you wanted out of it. I mean, you can do that. I mean, we can send it back and say, we don't accept it, you need to keep working. Or we can say, you know, we accept this and then we will move on to phase 2. So I think that's the gist of my motion.
Thank you for explaining that more, Mr. Davis. If it is in fact just accepting that the folks did the job and move on from there, I would be okay with that. Just accepting that they produced this document.
Is there any further discussions?
Yes, my question still is I just really want to make sure we're going to have that meeting and talk about it, because I really do want to talk. I want to understand this fully. I don't have anything against anything in here. I just want to understand. If somebody asked me about the blueprint, I can just rattle everything off. And I can't do that right now, but I want to know. I want to understand. And that's the problem that I'm having, because I wasn't at all those meetings. There were a lot of meetings. A lot of people met and a lot of good ideas came out of it, but I don't understand all the ideals, and I want to understand. That's the problem for me.
Vice President Davis, I guess the thing is that this being a living document, I guess people just worried about that we get it at face value. I guess they want to realize that some things can be changed, if I'm explaining it right.
Well, I mean, I think that's up to us.
Okay.
You know, I mean, we can vote on every document all day, every day. You know, doesn't mean anything. It's all going to be words on paper. You know, we're going to have to make hard decisions. We're going to have to continue working with other entities. I mean, a lot of these things in here are putting responsibility back on us. And, you know, we still have to do that hard work. As the video said, the policies still need to be created and implemented. And the only people that can do that for St. Louis Public Schools is the Board of Education. You know, this was a sort of community engagement on steroids. And so, you know, yeah, we've got to absorb it. And some of the things, you know, once we hash it out and we start working with other people, we may not be able to pull it off for various reasons. There may be things that we want to do that aren't in here. But, you know, this was what we set out to do, and the work was done. And, you know, even if they came to different conclusions, we still would have to implement those conclusions. So accepting this document doesn't mean that all of these things are going to happen, or, you know, regardless, there's still going to have to be work to be done. So you know, we've said from the beginning, whatever this turned out to be was not going to be a plan to sit on the shelf. I mean, you have my commitment to that. I hope I have your commitment to that, board members, that you're going to continue to work on this and through this together, and that we continue to build consensus from the consensus that is evident in this document.
I think we need to define what we mean by a living document. I mean, if you think and if you look through where we are in this blueprint, some of the things we've been doing, you know, already, some of the things other schools or systems have been doing already out of what has become from the citywide plan, is not written in stone. But what we mean by when we say it's a living document, and when we say we have work to do, is we do have work to do within the city of St. Louis. The way we've seen education, we have to look at it in a different way. We don't have the population that we've had, you know, in the past. We no longer have 700,000 in population, and we have to focus on that. And this is what we're saying it is, a blueprint. It's a blueprint. It's not a strategic plan. It's not, you know, a layout of where we are. It's a blueprint. It's something to give us a foundation of where to start. That's what we mean by it being a living document. So with that being said, is there any more discussions? And to your point, Secretary Jones, absolutely, we will have more discussions regarding this, because it is a living document, and we do, as a board, have a lot of work to do regarding this document. So yes, ma'am, we will have more discussions regarding this. Is there any more discussions?
I just want to say thank you for the clarification. I think that's really what I needed, was to clarify exactly what we're voting on here. And I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to everyone who put a lot of hard work. It took a lot of time, it took a lot of energy to do this. And so I don't want to negate that fact. I think a lot of people in the community really poured into this work. So I do thank you for that. And I thank you, President Cousins and Vice President Davis, for clarifying where we are going with this blueprint from here. So thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Wise. Any other questions or discussions?
Sorry, one more thing. Could you
No,
say
you're fine.
for just to be clear for the public, how much did SLPS contribute to the Carter Group, Morrow Group?
It was approximately $200,000 out of general operating budget, and then there were private donations. I mean, I think the ballpark was total $600,000. To put that in context, $200,000 is less than 0.04% of our operating budget, and is about 6 months of the last luxury tax abatement that was passed in the city of St. Louis. I mean, there's sticker shock. I mean, we argued, we got it down, but there were hundreds and hundreds of hours of herding these cats to get this document together. So I'm not going to criticize Dr. Mara Carter or the price tag. I get it, but if you had lived through it, the work was put in, and we rode her hard to keep those costs down and to fulfill the obligations of that contract for the price that she quoted, because even the scope of it creeped and the time creeped as we went on.
Yes, no, I just wanted to be sure that we knew the number in the news story was really big and scary, but it wasn't the cost to the district. And I thought that was important to say publicly.
Any other questions? Thank you. Can I get we're at the motion. Second. We're now for the votes. Ms. Henry.
Mr. Hikes,
Yes.
Ms. Weiss,
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard,
No.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Cousins.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Committee reports.
Well, I think we've had our citywide plan committee report, and that committee no longer exists. My other committee report is there will be a legislative breakfast with members of the Board of Aldermen and state representatives and senators who are all invited. That is our annual legislative breakfast that will be this Thursday at CVPA from 9 to 12. It won't be live streamed because it's just logistically difficult, but it is open to the public.
Any other committee reports?
The governance committee met and we adopted the engagement policy. I thought Ms. Fowle would be here to do everything properly, so I'm not prepared to give a recommendation to the board. So we can do that in the work session and still have it be final for July.
Okay, we'll move to public comment. Out of respect for our board members and the mission to conduct business, please refrain from using any names when providing your comments. You all have 3 minutes. Mr. Chester Astor.
So in this board meeting, I don't think we discussed academics at all. In this school, 10% of the kids can read on grade level. 90% of the kids in this school cannot. 3% of the kids in this school are doing math on grade level. That means 97% cannot. Washington, Jefferson, Bryan Hill Elementary, Melanphy, Henry Shaw Elementary. These are some of the names of SLPS schools and slave owners that welcome our children each morning. From them trickle down the thoughts and ideas of low expectations and hate and jeers of Black terrors and fears of people who hated the parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents of the children who now walk the halls of those same schools. This is how we greet our kids every day. We say, you're not worthy of a school name that sees you plain, as human, as capable, as innocent, as child, as brother, sister, daughter, or son. Your worth must be won, but not presumed. Your culture and perspective buried, not exhumed. Your Black excellence murdered and entombed. Caskets inscribed with the names of the murderers of those who lay locked within. Sin, a mocking mausoleum. Pardon me if, like the Colosseum in Samson's last straw, I aim to bring down these walls of deprivation and injustice, ridicule and child hospice, because we will not sit idly by while you let rot the fruit of our nation. We'll not stand here while you engage in faux deliberation or remain silent while you pave the way for incarceration. Don't even dare now debate the names of our schools. You have had years to do so and have found it unfit. Yet you sit and you smile. You applaud yourselves while allowing our schools to pile Black bodies on top of piles of Black bodies, because that is the result of an educational system that does not educate. It creates a carceral state, deadly state for our children and fathers who find it more effective to commit crime than to spend the time in a minimum wage 9 to 5 watching their children starve on poverty wages and false hope. Because if you cannot read the application, how can you apply for a better job? We demand action. Your sham citywide plan sheds no light and provides no direction. Our state test scores are a yearly reminder of your dereliction, and the outcomes for our children and communities require your criminal conviction. So forgive me if I don't conform to the deadly decorum norms of this body. I do not come in peace to people who hold no passion, no urgency, no care, and no love for Black folk. I come in justice, which means I can't rest until you or your replacements provide an education Black children deserve, Black families demand, and this city, state, and country owe. We will not accept no. 1, set a citywide goal for reading to help suture the bleeding that happens when people cannot navigate their futures with real and literate hope. 2, require that academics are discussed through and through at each and every board meeting. And 3, start a conversation for what education reparations look like to help reverse the curses you have cast upon our kids.
Thank you, Mr. Ashton. Mr. Monroe.
I represent a nonprofit organization called Harriet Tubman. And for decades, I've been in pursuit of a building, a place that the community can engage career activities. And the St. Louis Public Schools chose us to let these buildings crumble. And in spite of requesting an audience with this board regarding what ails our children, the real solutions, we get nothing. The citywide planning, nothing. More than $500,000 spent on communication. And you were right, Ms. Hubbard. I know you wanted to read it before you voted on it, but I want to make a reference to the direction that this St. Louis Public Schools has sent me. Harriet Tubman Career Center. There's a Walgreens that closed down at Union and Page. I'm in conversation with the Walgreens people about opening up Harriet Tubman Career Center. I wanted to collaborate with St. Louis Public Schools, but we've been forgotten. And the only thing that happened in that citywide planning was the charter schools getting together and communities were left out. Harriet Tubman Career Center, right there at that abandoned vacant building, Walgreens. And this message is to the people at the Walgreens. Now I'm sitting at the table with him and we're making and mapping out a plan as to how this is financed. The St. Louis Public Schools, the city of St. Louis, the state of Missouri, there are millions of dollars where we can do something for our children. We don't need to spend another $500,000 on a plan and put that plan on the table. I ask for your support to support Bill Monroe and Harriet Tubman, and go to www.harriettubman.org HarrietTubmanCareerCenter.com. www.HarrietTubmanCareerCenter.com. We're negotiating with the people from Walgreens over what they're going to charge me for a monthly fee to occupy that building and open up Harriet Tubman Career Center. We're going to open up, they say they can't find policemen. They say they can't find firemen. Well, we're going to open up a career academy there, and with the Black police officers are going to help me with training police officers. The Black firemen are going to help me with training firemen and paramedics. You say you can't find them, we're going to find them for you. And there's money, and if they quit, I hope they locked up all the thieves down there who are blocking this, because there's money for education and our children need help. But the real solution for what's going on in this community with our young Black boys being locked up, young Black girls being killed, is education, skills, and job training. And without that, they're doomed. And I guess that's my 3-minute buzzer.
Thank you, Mr. Monroe.
Thank you.
Ms. Rebecca King.
Good evening. I wanted to first thank you all for your public service. My name is Rebecca Keene. I'm a St. Louis City resident who's owned a home for more than 15 years that is 2 blocks from the taxpayer-funded Rose Fanning Middle School. I have attempted to reconstruct a timeline using public records via sunshine request. From what I can determine, the real estate committee of the St. Louis City Public Schools appears to be in closed meeting perpetuity. So I'm unable to locate the documentation that demonstrates that meeting is closed in perpetuity. According to 610-021 and 22, I should be able to be provided with a roll call vote that demonstrates that's to be recorded prior to 24 hours and then the results of that. So I'm looking forward to that. I believe that the records also demonstrate several other inconsistencies, and I'd like to use some of my time to give you that example. The initial artifact in the timeline I constructed shares the St. Louis City public schools individual, exchanging information and details with the Screaming Eagle developer on January 28th of 2021. Those details do not appear to have been available to the general public or to other potential buyers. That same string, which occurred after business hours on a Friday evening before the school was listed, show that the Screaming Eagle developer intended to request a historic tax credit and zoning changes, which could be interpreted as a signal as to what was necessary to entice a specific buyer. So it appears with no public input, potentially no concern to the taxpayers that live near that building, the developer and members of this government body began the journey to change the zoning in a neighborhood in which none of them appear to reside. The records also show that the Screaming Eagle proposal was received on 3/8/21, which is the same day as a closed real estate meeting. It is very interesting to me that though the proposal came from the developer on the exact same day and made it onto the agenda, that seems unusual to me in a body with process. I digress. Also, I'm unable to locate the process which identifies when the buildings are listed and the timelines in which they should be listed and how long they are to be listed. I received a quote from an individual from the public schools that said that if it were not without historic tax credit, equity, renovation, and reuse of Fanning simply would not occur and it would sit vacant, a huge negative for the Tower Grove South neighborhood. I would like to meet with you all and discuss what else I found in those records.
Thank you. Dr. Barbara Anderson.
I'm short. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I come before you as a proud product of St. Louis Public Schools. Sadly, tonight, I speak about the elephant in the room. SLPS, as every public school system in the nation, is experiencing a teacher shortage as well as a lack of interest in the profession. This unfortunate set of circumstances has forced school districts to employ practices that ensure placement of personnel who are not qualified to provide instruction to its students. What we must address is what caused this set of circumstances. The elephant in the room is discipline. Exit surveys and social media posts demonstrate what educators face on a daily basis. When students cannot be successful in their classes, they become disruptive and engage in inappropriate behavior. This phenomenon takes away from instructional time. This occurrence can be problematic for experienced educators, let alone the inexperienced personnel who are simply making sure classes are covered with an adult. We must cease forcing teachers to place students in classes and levels where failure is guaranteed. This is not teacher failure. It is systemic failure by design, and is a huge reason school districts cannot retain teachers and why so few persons want to even consider teaching as a profession. Thankfully, there are solutions to the problems we face. We cannot continue to accept disruptive behavior because we want to avoid the prison pipeline. One solution is the in-school suspension plan, ISS. Unfortunately, what we have done historically is employ people being paid low wages to monitor the students with the most challenges and difficulties. These ISS monitors need to be the most highly trained personnel with the knowledge to ensure instruction continues. It cannot be a babysitting class. It's not working. Special education training includes individualized instruction models and do not require the exhaustive special education processes, which leave students suffering as paperwork is completed. Yet another model used successfully is the combination of push in and pull out system for delivering special education services. This does not preclude the need for some students to receive pull-out services when needed. We know what to do. What will we do?
Thank you, Dr. Bennett. This concludes our meeting. I need a motion to end.
I'll move to adjourn and go to the reception.
Second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?